If you have had difficulties in your past, for example, if you have had a challenging childhood that is affecting your life as an adult, you wish to talk about it, but who can you talk to and be understood? That's your question. Many of us have opened up to totally wrong persons and got a setback on our development to more mature, more happier adults. The reason that we want to talk about so much is totally understandable. As from my background, my trauma comes from a home. My mother has various narcissistic traits and she is extremely cold. So when I grew up and realized that I'm not the only one that this has happened to, that it's not my fault, and I am allowed to heal from it and move on. Or I can try. Then of course I had the urge to talk about it because it kind of changed my life. And that's what it does. If you have been thinking about all your life that you are something less and world is has this kind of certain order that you have been told when you were a child, and suddenly you realize that that is not true. It's like you have, at least for a moment, a possibility to see the world in a very different way. So that's the great revelation in your head. And of course you want to talk about it to your spouse, your partner, your friends, anyone who wants to listen. That, hey, world is not what I thought it was, it's something different. And I'm not faulty, but I'm just a normal human being like everybody else. Even though I have been led to believe that I cannot be what others are. But at the same time, the world didn't change for the rest of the people. They still live the same life. And maybe they didn't realize at any phase that there was something wrong with your past and that there was something that you felt that you lack. So I have heard from many people these next phrases. For example, that why do you put so much energy on hating your parents? Well, it's just something that is. That's your feeling if you feel that way. And that cannot be wrong or right. It's just a feeling and you are entitled to your feelings. That's how the human race works. And of course, the other thing is that people say that, but that's the ancient past. Why are you remembering that ancient past? It was 40, 50 years ago. Yes, it was. The past was then. But if you still, if that past has molded your view of the world so much that you don't see it like other people see. Like my husband says always when I'm struggling with these things that you see everything through grey veil. You don't see that sun is shining, you think that everything is grey. And that's true. I see things through negative veil. I expect things to fail, not to succeed. And that's just something that is set in my head. But that setting is not my own. It doesn't come from my decision that I want to see everything grey because I'm just a Moby kind of person. But it comes from childhood, when I was taught that you are not going to succeed, you are not going to be fine, you are going to be something average at best if you try very hard, but we don't believe that. So the past doesn't stay in the past if it molds your view of the world. And that's the revelation for the people, for us, for you and for me, that the world changes. You can have a glimpse of the world without the grey veil, but the grey veil comes back. And that's why it's not in the ancient history, it's still here. It's still here every day. And of course you see people who say that, well, for example, one of my friends said that, but I've met your parents, they are lovely people. Yeah, but if you think that you know any family, and I think that all people that have some kind of experience in the dark side of life know that families may look perfect outside, but you never know what goes on behind the closed doors. So the worst people are those who are very friendly and laughing and nice and polite to everybody else, but when it comes to their own families, they are monsters. And if you have seen them in the movies have a glimpse of the truth, but of course the reality is much harder than in the movies, because it doesn't end after 2.5 hours. It just continues to the rest of your life. And that's the tough part. So there are people who think they know you and your family, but they don't. But there is no reason to talk to people like that. This friend of mine that said to me these words years ago, I think it must have been 15 years ago, I still see her every once in a while, and when we talk about, she's from the same town that I am, when we talk about the things, and I told her over and over again that why I do not go there, why I don't expect with joy the moments I stay there, she has beginning to realize that it's not just my imagination, and understand that my parents aren't what she thought they were, and at least not similar as hers. And of course I was writing my morning pages this morning when this thought occurred to me, and I wrote down the answers that I have got when I've been talking about these things. And of course there is the element that you cannot blame them. You cannot blame them that your life has gone wrong. You cannot blame them that you have not advanced in your career like you would have wanted. You cannot blame them for this and that. Yes, I can. And yes, you can. It's totally possible that somebody has the blame, that somebody is guilty, and that I don't think the most odd thing about this concept of somebody being guilty is that they are supposed to do it on purpose. If they didn't mean it, they cannot be guilty, but that's wrong in real life and in family concepts. Because if you have been treated wrong by a person who doesn't understand that is wrong, because there is something missing in their heads, they have some mental issues or flaws of character like psychopathy, narcissism, or various other things, those are just more well known. So they don't understand that they are doing wrong, but they are still hurting you. So they are still guilty of the feeling that you have, and you have still been treated wrong. So yes, you can blame them. You cannot blame yourself. If something has happened to you, you cannot just take all the blame to yourself. And I am so miserable and I am so stupid that's why I haven't been moving forward in my career. And that's not very constructive. That's just what they want. So that's just something that continues from your childhood. If you have heard all your life that you are something less, and you don't do yourself any favors by continuing that, and your friends aren't your friends if they say that it's not their fault, it's your own fault. But of course, if somebody is guilty of a crime, we know what happens. You can go to police and they will be punished. But if they were crappy parents, then there is no punishment for that. If they didn't commit actual crimes like beat you, that's in modern days, that is a crime. Just 100 years ago, it was a favorable action to raise children. But there are no labels in that kind of parents, and they are not criminal. They will not be punished. But it's okay for you to say that it's their fault. And I think that that's one of the biggest stepping stones to move forward, to acknowledge that because I am like this, because I have been treated like this by them. Because then there is the label for it. And if you have like wound in your soul and you think that you are never good enough, then that releases a part of that blame from you. And it's easier to start healing, or start even try to heal, and start even realize what's going on and what has been going on in your life. One of the favorite things for people to say is that you're exaggerating, you're making a too big deal out of this, and that you are too sensitive. But, well, first of all, the sensitivity is in ourselves, in you and me. Some people are not very sensitive. They can just go through anything and it doesn't stick. But I have realized that there is certain element of denial of feelings in that kind of persons, and if they are not feeling even the positive things as the sensitive people are. And that's something that we cannot just decide to stop to be. So I stopped being sensitive. I'm starting to be tough. Well, it doesn't work out that way. And if you try to be something that you are not, then you end up in a whole different kind of trouble, mainly with yourself. And the same thing is to say that you are exaggerating. Well, again, nobody knows what goes on behind closed doors, so they really don't know if you are exaggerating or not. And the most important thing is what it did to you. How do you feel? It's not them, it's you. And if you are a sensitive person, and if that was enough for you, then good parents with normal senses would have noticed that what is too much for you. And of course, the question is, why do you have to be mean to your own kid and then start to scale it? That is it too much or not? You shouldn't be mean to your own kid. If you feel that you have to be, then you have to think about where does it come from. It usually doesn't come from the kid. It comes from you, and it comes from your past. So there shouldn't be a possibility to exaggerate something. But we are all individuals, and we have our own feelings, and we have our own sensitivity levels, and it's very challenging to raise a sensitive child. But they exist, and sensitive adults exist, and there is always the good side in sensitivity, in the positive feelings. But people that ask these questions or make these comments don't understand. And as much as you want to talk about how your world has changed and how you feel, that you have an explanation to things, how things certainly start to make sense, and the only explanation is not that you are stupid and you are less and you are not capable and you are not worth it. But actually, you are. but people just had said to you, you have just been around the mean people and the wrong people, and that's why you believe that you are something less. But who do you talk about this then? Well, of course, everybody say that get a therapist and talk to the therapist. I had been in therapy for a few years, and yes, there was some benefits on it, but there was also this that I realized later on. So the therapist didn't ever show any compassion to me. So if you want to talk about that something horrible has happened to you, and you have realized it, and you want to seek new possibilities, new reality, you want to be understood. You want empathy, you want sympathy, you want a positive reinforcement for your thoughts and for your actions. And therapist doesn't give that. They just ask you questions and help you realize maybe what has happened, but they can also say these same things that maybe you are exaggerating. And when therapists said that, it's like a knife through the heart, because they are the professionals who should know. But of course, I hope that there are good therapists for this kind of situations, and I believe that the best are those who have some experience of the same phenomenon, so they are not maybe the victims of the worst possible scenarios, but they have some kind of experience that what this is about. Because otherwise it's very hard to understand, even if you read the book after book after book. But I think that I will talk in another video about therapist and how it went with her. But who are the best people to talk this kind of thing to? They are your peers or older people, your seniors, who has experience in this kind of things. They don't say that you are exaggerating or you should just move on if they are not exceptionally tough people. But they usually listen, and they can be happy for you. They can be happy for you that you understand this, that you discovered that world is what you now know that it is. And they can support you, and they can be empathic and sympathetic, and they can say that you are worthy of a better life. So try to find that kind of people. I found that for the first time in my husband, who has had a challenging childhood himself, and very different than mine, but let alone challenging. And when I talk to him about these, he doesn't say any of those trivial things. He understands, but and of course supports me and me growing more and moving forward. And I think that that's essential to healing. And I hope that you can find that kind of person that you can talk to, that you can tell what happened. Because when you start telling what happened, then you discover more and more and more. And when somebody comments on your findings, then the blocks come to place and you start to see the world without the grey veil. Not all the time, but sometimes. So pick carefully who you talk to. The urge to talk to is totally natural and understandable, and you should talk about it. And those who don't understand, just leave them be. And hang on to those friends and spouses who understand. Please comment down below, have you tried talking about these things and how did it go? I hope you have a great day. I see you soon. Goodbye.